Where's my rain, Dean?
Well, I think we got plenty of rain out there, to be honest with you. We've already had close to 0.4 of an inch. And we'll probably end up getting somewhere between a half inch, and some spots could come close to an inch of rain.
Where are those some spots?
Cool.
FM area down towards out east of the
Wapaton?
Lakes country, just west of here. And so basically from Castleton through Fargo,
Castleton.
through Herman.
I think we should do the whole
Wapaton.
show where we mess up names.
I'm just curious.
Just to irk people today.
You are a man. I don't know how your wife puts up. I have to put up with you for 2-3 hours a day, and I'm ready to just strangle you half of the days.
We're trying to run you out of town, Dean.
Man,
Is it working?
keep trying.
Hey, what was that town that's northeast of here? Ada?
Can I help you guys out with
What'd you
Ada?
call it?
God, do you mind doing the show alone with him? I don't know if I could put up with him today.
Am I just going to be doing the show alone, period?
Let's
You
throw
two
him
are
out.
going to be
Let's-
out in the hallway leg wrestling this out?
No,
Let's
just
throw him outside and lock the doors.
He doesn't have a key anyway. Doesn't matter.
Don't threaten me with a good time. I got a car. I got a softball game in 5 hours.
You
So
ain't
don't think
playing.
I won't get out of here a little early. It's
So
not even raining in Grand
I was just
Forks.
gonna
What
say,
do you mean?
You're not getting any rain up there is what you're telling me.
I'm getting 5% of what's falling around here.
And how much longer is it going to be falling around here?
Yeah, a few more hours.
Notice I want the weather report while I finish eating the ice cream that Dean brought
You
in
both
studio.
you guys are eating the same ice cream. We're on the radio and you're flopping down some ice cream.
We're sharing.
How is it?
It's like being on a conference call in a drive-through at Dairy Queen.
Should we explain what kind of ice cream it is that you guys are eating?
Pride Dairy from Bottineau, North Dakota.
On what flavor is it?
We have maple nut and vanilla.
Oh, you got both of them.
Yes, I really like their vanilla, but
I like-
maple
oh,
nut's
I
my
love their
favorite.
maple
Vanilla
nut.
is good too.
Maple nut's my favorite.
So what is that the vanilla that he was talking to us about, or is there a second vanilla that he was referencing? What
No,
was it? The
old-fashioned recipe.
the old-fashioned one?
This, I think, is that recipe, actually.
That would make sense because it tastes a lot better than most vanilla ice creams
It
I've eaten.
just does. It's And their ice cream is so creamy and so good. And who doesn't want to have that on a day when it's, roughly 61 degrees out there, a little breezy and chilly?
Yeah, it's raw for
Hey,
the middle of May.
It's still a beautiful day, though. You guys are forgetting that the sun's up there. It's just behind the clouds, but
Right.
it's still there.
Soon to be found, I'm sure.
My grass could use a little bit of rain, maybe like a 1/10 of an inch, not a half inch, but, just something to give it a little moisture.
Well, happy
My
happy
garden's
mow-
loving it.
Happy mowing.
Yes. So the funny thing is I mowed my grass last Saturday. I was out there yesterday. 3 days later, I'm like, man, it already needs to get mowed again. It was an inch taller than what it was.
Oh,
We're at that
man.
time of the year where
It
you're
is
mowing every 3 days.
Everything's growing. Everything's blooming. Allergy season is in
man,
high
the crab
gear.
apples are in full bloom on
man.
our street.
Lilacs started opening up today, yesterday, etc. I am also going to lay money on the fact right now that all this rain that we are getting, and then it's going to shut off, and I will bet you money I will not have to mow the lawn in July or August.
No,
You want to make a bet?
I do.
I'll bet you.
I'll bet.
He lost his last bet.
Fine.
Let's keep it going.
He forgets to mention I won the 75% others.
True.
Yeah, but we didn't really bet anything.
We'll work on a bet.
Yeah.
Well,
We'll
that's
have
not
good
what-
ideas.
Make
That's
it worth.
not what that case of beer said last month.
That's
Exactly.
true.
All right, what's the forecast, kids? Come on now.
Let Justin give it.
You're going to wow, so you can stuff your face in ice cream?
Yes, that's what we're doing over here.
Yeah, how's the good old thunderstorm sound? You want one of those in the forecast?
Sure.
I
bring
think we
it.
could get on board with a just good old classic summer-like storm. Well, there's potential for one, not today, but in a couple of days. We'll keep an eye on that. But for today, we're going to be dealing with the wider spread steady rains around the FM metro and the central and southern valley. Those are slowly going to continue to work their way to the northeast. There are also a cluster of showers up in the northern valley, and this will continue through the rest of this afternoon with steady rain around the FM metro, on and off rain around our area. Wind for the most part not bad today. It's out of the east at 9 miles per hour, and it'll stay around 5 to 15 as it switches more northeasterly. I think we hit our high temperature earlier today. What were we, around 64 earlier today? 63?
62 early this morning.
We're
yeah.
at 54 right now because of the rain. I don't think we're going to get back up into those mid-60s. but we'll stay in the 50s to maybe warming close to 60 again by the time the rain shuts off. And then we'll drop down to close to 50 degrees tonight. Those scattered showers will diminish and move out of our area, just leaving us with a cloudy night. And for tomorrow, we'll watch for a few isolated showers to develop throughout the afternoon. Most of the day looks dry right now with temperatures in the lower to mid 70s, a west wind around 5 to 15. And we'll see another round of showers coming through Thursday night. Now for Friday, again, kind of like Thursday, some afternoon scattered showers are possible around the region. We'll turn a little breezy with high temperatures in the lower 80s. So it's going to be pretty nice on your Friday, but watch out for Friday evening into early Friday night. That is our window where we could get some thunderstorms, maybe a line to push through the central into the eastern half of North Dakota that could be a little on the strong side. So we'll keep an eye on that. What are you three snickering on?
What does Sunday look like?
What's Sunday look like?
Yeah.
Same thing as Saturday, scattered showers.
What about the winds?
Dean wants me to do this.
I see.
I just thought I'd give you the wind sound effects. I'm here to help.
It'll be a little windy on Saturday, lighter winds on Sunday, still a little breezy though. Saturday will be our windiest day, 20 to 40 mile an hour winds, mainly out of the west. Both days hold a chance for scattered showers. Saturday looks more wet than Sunday. It's not going to rain all day. There likely will be a few spots that don't see any rain at all. So I wouldn't cancel your plans. Just know there may be a few scattered showers in the area.
It'll be fine. I can still pick up garden plants even if they have to sit in their containers until I get them out into the ground.
Now, we were talking in the office about, because you said a lot of the farmers were pulling all-nighters.
Oh, yeah, they're getting far.
So where do you think we're at? 80%?
I would say if we looked at total ground covered, corn, soybeans, sugar beets, wheat, etc., I would bet you money we're between 70 and 80%. Now, maybe I'm being optimistic, but I have folks that are wrapping up. There are those who've already said they're done. Granted, it's all about size and scale. So if you are a smaller acreage, you might have wrapped yours up by now. Others, maybe not. Or you've finished corn or sugar beets. You're still going to plug away at your soybeans, but we've been making really good planting progress.
Yeah, Parker, if you're listening, give us a buzz, 701-293-9000. Let us know how you're doing out in the field. I know he has our crop planted.
Well,
I'm curious how the rest of his organization is doing out there.
It's up. Our crop is up. I was in the field yesterday.
Taking pictures?
I was taking pictures, like I said yesterday. You want to know who honks their horn and waves when someone's laying in a cornfield along Clay County 26? Everybody honks and waves.
Wow.
Semis, the whole 9 yards. So I did get some pictures and video of our fields yesterday.
What were you wearing? Maybe that's why they
why
were
were you
honking.
laying in
bright
the
yellow
field?
T-shirt.
That's wildly inappropriate.
Well, and you had to lay down because the plants are really only like true first leaf, so they're little.
So
and
you got to get up close.
to
Little
them.
itty bitty baby kerns.
They're probably like, what is that crazy lady
Yeah.
doing laying in the
Get
cornfield
out.
taking
Hey,
pictures?
get off of me, lady.
I ran into somebody I know, and he said, "What have you been doing?" I said, "Well, I was laying in a cornfield." "Well, you do look kind of dusty." I'm like, thanks.
That's a nice way of saying dirty.
Yeah, that's a nice way of saying you could use a
You're
shower.
looking dirty, lady.
You get out of here. You're just weird.
No.
So it's been good for our corn out there. We're getting moisture, and I think those guys actually, like Parker and Trigby and Justin, were saying that they thought maybe by end of week, depending on how much rain they get, they could get really close to wrapping up planting.
Yeah, I think we could open that to everybody, especially you, B-Rad, if you're listening out there by Fisher, Minnesota.
That's right.
Give us a call on the Red Wing Shoes shoe line, 701-293-9000. We don't need to know the size of your operation, but just what percentage you would say that you are done with planting. If you're completely done, halfway done, maybe your field was really wet and you haven't even gotten out there. Let us know what it looks like. 701-293-9000. We got a few fun things coming up on the program today. One of our favorite guests is hopefully joining us this afternoon. She's there.
She's
Her
there.
voice is back. That's Dr. Emily Fox from Ashley Vet Clinic, our favorite large animal vet. We'll be talking all about, well, all sorts of everything. We've kind of touched every single window, including the cow sliding glass door.
I actually got to spend a little time visiting with Dr. Emily on Saturday night.
Mm-hmm.
We visited about some of the topics we'll
Book
talk
club?
about. No, we were at a mutual graduation.
Oh, right
yes.
on.
So had a great visit about a number of things. And we've got quite the list of questions that people have wanted to ask her about. And I'm sure there'll be more, but just a few things. We're talking about crypto in cows. I don't think they have wallets, so we'll have to find out where that started.
You think they're a Dogecoin or You think they got a bunch of Doji coins sitting in their pockets?
Maybe they just like to pasture outside the big buildings that
maybe some Shiba
mine
Inus.
it. So colicky horses, can you give them a pacifier? Make them a little bit better, like colicky babies? North Dakota had a set of quintuplet calves born, and so that's a pretty rare instance. I wanted to ask her about the probability of that. And then if you have a cow that bloats, there is something called a choker, and a farmer was asking about the placement for that. I don't know anything about that deal, so I can't hardly wait until we can ask Emily all of these things and see how far we get in our list today. We got lots.
Awesome. Then we'll be looking forward to that. And if you want to join in on the conversation, feel free to do so at any point in time. We got a couple ag topics we'll be running down throughout the course of the next 50 minutes, as well as another check on the forecast. And if you want to report any rainfall that you've gotten so far over the last several days, feel free to send those in via email to weather@flagfamily.com. We got to get caught up with the American Ag Network, but when we come back, we'll be rejoining our conversation with Dr. Emily Fox from the Ashley Vet Clinic. Stay tuned.
Oh, thank you for joining us. And especially thank you to Addison, our sound engineer, for making sure that we knew we had 7 seconds to get on air. So it's a little rushing around here in the studio.
There's a lot you could still do at 7 seconds.
You'd think so, yes.
And it's more than 4.
Yes. So we appreciate that. Thank you.
I try.
All right. So not only is Addison here to join us, but also our mascot came in today. He looks like he got caught in the rain. I should really
looks like he got caught in the wind.
Comb him out. Poor Cooper. Man. He's got a bad hair day hanging out there.
Got some dreads going on.
All right, the person who is not having a bad day because she is always sunny, bubbly, and happy to be here, that is Dr. Emily Fox with the Ashley Vet Clinic. We truly enjoy having her join us. Emily, how are things in Ashley, North Dakota today?
Pretty good. We just got a little bit of rain here. We had quite a bit of rain the past few weeks, and then it's been getting better, but things are good here.
Excellent. Okay, calving season. Really, a lot of it has wrapped up. Did you see any major hurdles or themes or something that was consistently going on during calving this year for your producers?
I don't think I saw more of anything than normal. If anything, the good weather has really helped. There's just been less issues overall, maybe a little bit of an uptick in coccidiosis in some herds in comparison to other years. In terms of actual calving problems that I had to attend to, some people experienced a higher rate of twins. I don't know if it's just because there was less early embryonic loss because we had a nice fall, or why in particular. We've had a few strange things happen here for sure, like usual, but nothing that out of the ordinary for us.
When you said that about, some instances of triplets and so forth, did you read the article about a farm family in North Dakota had quintuplets out of a cow?
I didn't.
Okay.
I didn't see that.
Is that 5 or
Five.
6?
That's five. And there was
That's crazy.
quadruplets in a 5-year-old Red Angus in Nebraska this year as well. So
Payday.
what's the probability that's going to happen? I feel like it's extremely low.
Pretty low. I mean, twins are fairly high. I've only maybe actually assisted. I've had clients have triplets on occasion. It's pretty rare. I've only assisted with 1 or 2. I ultrasound. I do bovine fetal age and sex ultrasound. So we ultrasound really early as opposed to people who just preg check with an ultrasound. And we're looking for, the age and the sex. We're looking at very small fetuses where you can find the multiples. And I don't think I've ever found triplets. I think Andy has it once or twice, but I don't think I've ever even found triplets. So it's not a very common, even early pregnancy, because there's 2 things. Do you conceive triplets? And then do you carry the triplets to fruition? And I would say there's definitely far more cows that probably conceive triplets and resorb one of the fetuses or lose the pregnancy altogether than cows that go all the way through with a triplet pregnancy even. And a quad or quintus is very rare. I know it's more common in dairy cattle for a variety of reasons, but you really don't see them very often in beef cattle. And in fact, I have what may be a resorbed twin in a jar here. I have something cool to show you.
If you've got cool science fair project props, bring them on. What do you got?
So a client called one of our veterinarians and said, my cow calved, and she pushed something else out. And I thought it was a second twin because it was black and white and covered in hair, but it's just a ball. It looks like a small basketball or like between a basketball and a grapefruit. What is it? So these are fairly common. They're just kind of misaligned. They're cells that just don't go through all the way. And so we actually cross-sectioned it this morning. We kept it in the freezer and we cross-sectioned it as a group this morning. I took some x-rays of it. Some of these are really cool. They get teeth and stuff in. This one just had a single vertebrae in the middle, but they are just kind of like a twin that didn't form correctly. And so they just turn into a basketball and then come out with everything else. At least that's my understanding.
Wow.
And so this is the cross-section. So you can see the center there.
Yeah.
I keep a lot of stuff in formalin jars in my office. And then if you look real close, that center bit there is actually bone. And then there's hair on the top. You can see the back side of the other one. And then when I turn it around, so I've got both cross sections. We put it on the bandsaw this morning, and you can actually see the little umbilical cord coming off of it.
Holy cow.
So I thought that was worth sharing with you guys. Yeah, one of our doctors actually got the client to save it, which we appreciated. And there's nothing wrong with the cow. It's just a random thing that happens. It doesn't mean that anybody's sick or anything. They pass these without incident generally. Andy did say he saw one that was incredibly large that was in a cow with a ruptured uterus, and that did result in the death of the cow. But that was a very extreme situation, and usually these things are no big deal. It probably happens a little more than we think, but truthfully, they probably just if they do it on pasture or something, probably get eaten by coyotes and no one ever knows. I've always hoped to find one with teeth. I haven't yet, but it'll go on my wall when we do. I have a lot of things that I collect just for educational purposes to make sure that producers understand what they're seeing. I have a lot of little specimens I keep.
Suddenly a field trip to her office just got better.
Man.
Oh, that's awesome. I did not know that you would be able to keep something like that and would use it, like you said, for educational purposes. And thank you for sharing that. That was very cool. For those who didn't get to see it, go to our live stream on Facebook, YouTube, Acres TV. You're going to want to take take a look at that.
Well,
what
I think
Emily
that
described.
leads into a question here. I mean, I think that's pretty odd and weird, but it didn't seem like too big of a deal over there for you, Dr. Fox. So what's the weirdest thing that you've come across, or a situation, or I guess really anything? What's the weirdest thing you've seen on the job?
I mean, I see a lot of weird stuff. I've definitely seen some deformed calves that were strange. I've had a schistosomus reflexus, which is a calf. I had never had one up until I told a student that I had never had one. And then that week, the student and I saw two of them. So just kind of like a weird thing. You should never say that you haven't had something you don't want to see happen. But Andy, my other half, who's also a veterinarian, he actually saw one for his first calving ever as a vet. And the farmer called and they said, there's all these little intestines coming out of the cow. I think the cow has ruptured. Well, actually, they were the calf's intestines, and their schistosomus reflexus is an inside-out calf. They're not entirely inside out, but they're not like a hernia where the guts have just come out. Like they have a lot of guts on the outside. Sometimes the heart will be on the outside as well. And a lot of the time too, the spine is malformed, and you have to do a C-section or a fetotomy to remove them from the cow. But the weirdest thing this year, I think, would probably be what happened to Dr. Presser, who's our newest veterinarian. This is her first year out of school, and thank goodness she handled this well, and somebody came and helped her as well. But she actually ended up with conjoined twins that she C-sectioned out this year. And they weren't just normal conjoined twins. They were actually conjoined at the sternum, like yin and yang.
Oh
right
my
here.
gosh. Yeah.
They were pretty cool. And she's, she's very good with calvings, even though she's new out of school. She has a lot of experience, and she right away recognized that something was not right. Like everything was where it should be. The calf was not too big to come out, and yet it felt like it was just stuck. Well, it was stuck to its friend.
So are they both?
Are they
both able to be saved when that happens, or?
They were dead by the time they came out,
Okay.
unfortunately. And I don't know, they weren't very long dead. I did see one calf one time it had 8 legs, so it was kind of conjoined to like part of another calf. And that one was still alive. But it didn't live very long. It's pretty hard for them to be mothered, et cetera. And sometimes for humane reasons, you end up putting them down just to make sure that they don't live a sad life. I did see one animal last year that was a yearling with an extra leg attached to its back. So
it was a yearling?
Happen. Yes, and there actually is someone on TikTok who has I don't know where they're out of, but they have a calf with an extra foot coming out of its head. And the reason I noticed it is I follow some stuff on bovine hoof trimming because we have a tilt table, and they had trimmed all 5 of the feet because the toes were getting too long, and they had to trim the toes on the extra foot on its head. It lives at a sanctuary somewhere. So if you look for that on the internet, you will find it.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that. I didn't know if it was the same thing or not, but it's like you got 2 cows and the one gets absorbed by the other in the uterus, but it doesn't absorb the whole cow. So sometimes you get a couple legs sticking out of it somewhere, or the back end is hanging out of the gut or the body of the cow. So that's interesting stuff.
Wow.
I didn't know you could flip them inside out, though.
Embryology is pretty wild. Yeah, and there's a lot of things that can go wrong. I've seen hydrocephalus as well, where there's water on the brain. Mm-hmm. Those are really hard to get out of the cow, and they're really hard on the cow, and they're not going to live because their brain tissue is abnormal, right? So definitely all of those things can be bad. We've had some uterine torsions this year. Those are probably my least favorite emergency, just because they're so hard. And if you imagine, I should have brought one in here and I completely forgot to, but if you imagine a tennis ball in a sock, if the sock is the uterus and the tennis ball is the fetus, and then you twist it, that can happen inside the cow. And so people reach in and they call and they say, she's not dilated, but I see afterbirth, she's been pushing, I feel like she should be dilated. It's probably a torsion. If you reach in and you feel like you can just kind of barely get through, but your hand is going this way or that way, and it's really tricky to undo a torsion. You pretty much have 2 options, really. And a lot of the time, by the time people find them, the calf is long dead. So a C-section is not always the best thing, because that exposes the cow's insides to quite a bit more bacteria. Ideally, I like to try to untwist them. However, they're really hard. You actually have to lay the cow down and try to roll her to catch up with her uterus. Or you can use a detorsing rod, but you have to be able to get both hands on both feet onto a chain and then twist the calf to, again, untwist that uterus around the calf, so to speak. The third option is to do a C-section, but it's very hard to exteriorize the calf, and so you have to kind of flip the uterus first inside the cow. I did that recently, and it was, a little more work than a normal C-section. And then you really want to try to keep that gook out of the cow, because the uterus is an external organ. I know that sounds bizarre, but what I mean by that is the uterus is meant to contact the outside world and be exposed to some things you can find outside, whereas the peritoneum, the area all around the organs inside, is meant to be incredibly sterile. And so it really doesn't have the same defenses. Actually, I stole this from Dr. Alex. This is a visual cow because we had some questions that I thought might be relevant. But like you can see her uterus, right, would contact the outside world, but all the area here, like around her organs, that all needs to be much more sterile.
Wow. Okay. This has been awesome. And the fact that we now have props today too is even better. So for those of you who are watching, don't go anywhere. First of all, everybody is fascinated here in the studio, right down to Cooper. That poor little cow just fell over there for a minute. He was so wound up. But we will be right back when we continue our discussion with Dr. Emily Fox. Please stay and join us. We'll continue the discussion. Be right back. Welcome back to Weather and Ag in Focus. And today we have a great guest with us. That is Dr. Emily Fox. She is with the Ashley Veterinarian Clinic in Ashley, North Dakota. We have been talking about all sorts of things that have been going on with cattle this year. Now, I did have some questions that were sent in by listeners that we should probably get to. One of them had to be, and this one we've been waiting for a little bit. I called it a choker, but apparently that's not what it is. It's CHOKKAR if you have bloat on a cow. Can you explain a little bit, why is there bloat? What are you doing with this thing? What's its placement, Emily?
The cow has a boat?
I think maybe you mean trocar.
Trocar sounds probably right.
Okay, perfect. So bloat in general, I should start with bloat. So when people are talking about bloat, generally what they mean is ruminal bloat. That the rumen of the cow, so the stomach, this is why I had to borrow this.
This is so good.
So the stomach right here, right, is so big that the left side of the cow gets huge, and we've got this perceivably gas. However, a lot of bloats are misdiagnosed, and everyone seems to think they have a gas bloat and they need to stab it right away if the side of the cow gets even a little bit big. And I want to caution with the think first, then pop the bloat. Let's think about why first, because I have had people pop bloats that it probably would have been better if they had waited or talked to a vet or done something differently. But there are times when absolutely running up next to a cow and putting a trocar in could save their life.
Okay.
So it's important to be able to discern which. I highly recommend, rather than taking medical advice from this video, that if anybody is seriously considering doing this and they don't know what they're doing, that they talk to their regular veterinarian, because it may depend a little bit on their skill set, their operation. But I can certainly give the basics. So there are a lot of different reasons for bloat. And the first thing you have to decide is this bloat primary or secondary? Meaning, is this animal bloated because it's just bloated, got too much feed, something really basic? Or is it bloated secondary to something else? Is its GI system not working anymore because it has a stasis, because it has pneumonia and it's pressing on its vagus nerve, or because of some other factor? So I think that's really important, first of all, in deciding if doing an intervention like this is going to solve anything. The second thing is, how urgent is this? In my opinion, trocarization is almost never as good as doing a bloat surgery. So I can actually do this surgically in a way that's going to, almost like the fistula that we were discussing last time on the cow.
Yep.
To put that window in, we can do a very small version of that, like this on a feeder. And what we would be doing essentially is making a small hole that's going to last a while. It's going to last a month and start to close up slowly as the animal grows, and give it time, if its gastrointestinal system is not working correctly, to correct that issue. But generally, when people say bloat, they're thinking about too much gas in the rumen, and that can cause other issues. It can choke things off. There's a lot of reasons why it would make an animal not do well. And there are times where animals are laying over on their sides and they start to bloat up and then they can't breathe. Those are all really relevant reasons to use a trocar. So if we were going to use trocar, which first, right, we've decided that we have a real gas bloat, which you can sometimes tell by knocking on the side of the animal. You should be able to feel at the top of the rumen, if you're knocking on the side, kind of behind the rib cage, you should be able to feel gas, then maybe a fiber mat, and then a fluid mat. And so if you feel this is all fluidy up here, there's no difference, maybe you don't have any gas in there. Maybe this animal's so full of fluid, it's probably not going to help to just trocarize it. I also always recommend putting a tube down orally instead of putting a trocar in if you have the time to do it. So if you have the time and you don't think this animal's, breathing his last breath, so to speak, you could have time to maybe get this animal in. You can use a frick speculum or a PVC pipe and a tube, like a nice hose, not a garden hose with a metal end, but pretty much just a hose. Mm-hmm. And you can go down orally into the rumen and let the gas off manually. And I generally recommend that because that is atraumatic. Also, you're not going to worry about missing the room. So when people decide to trocarize a bloat, if we decided that that's not an option, we're not going to the vet, and we think this is a gas bloat, all three of which conditions I would want to satisfy before I did this. This is a red trocar. Okay. Now, some people just do this with a knife. There's a good reason not to do that. Okay. And the reason is, even if this rumen here is bloated, right? So the rumen is this yellow thing here, and it's bloated up enough that it is up against the edge of this cow now, right? Even if that's true, the problem is when you pop it, it's going to start to deflate. And we just said earlier when we were talking about the torsions, that juices from the stomach should not be in the peritoneum because that's a sterile area. So when we do that, if we don't connect the stomach layer that we've just cut into to the outside of the cow that we just cut into, we run the risk of that stomach deflating in there like a deflating water balloon and draining into the peritoneum of the cow, which is a big problem. It creates adhesions later. It stinks for me when I try to revisit the surgery that you've done. So if it's going to save something's life, I'm not going to tell you can never use a knife. But if you do, there could be consequences later. So really weigh that decision very closely. Ideally, what you have is one of these. So this, it's not quite as good as a surgery, but it does help screw the two together.
Justin's stomach
So
hurts.
this is a red plastic trocar. They're really cheap, and I advise my clients not to use this pokey end to try to
poke through the hide.
Do what you need to do because it won't go through the hide very easily. I generally recommend cutting a small slit with a scalpel and then going through the hide with this. Now this has two pieces. One piece is designed to screw in, and so you pop this in first, and then you quickly screw this in, and you want to get that little second layer, right, adhered to the first layer. So now you can put your two layers together. They're stuck together inside of cow to outside of cow. Okay. And then you pull this out, and this stays indwelling, but the air can come out through the hole. And the advantage to that is you don't have, now we've got our rumen is still stuck to the outside of our cow, so we have a direct hole into the rumen, and we don't have random rumen juice just deflating like a dirty deflating balloon into the abdomen of this poor cow and spilling everywhere.
And less likelihood for infection, right, at the same time?
Exactly.
Okay.
So, and also less likelihood that it's going to close back up, because that could happen too, right? It could just kind of close back up. I have had some that have adhered really grossly, so like it's deflated too much, and then there's also adhesions, and people come in and they say, yeah, I stabbed it twice and it still doesn't look good. Can you do the surgery now?
Oh my God.
I've done it, right? But it didn't really solve anything, unfortunately. It's not really the greatest situation. And I'm not saying, look, I don't want you to let something die because you can't get me on the phone, but just, go through that little checklist of like, okay, how urgent is this really? Which some of that decision making comes with time, but some of it you can also see, like, is this animal still up walking around? Like, at that point, do I think I can get a tube down it? Sometimes you get a tube down a bloat and they never bloat again. And then you're like, well, it's fine. I usually tell clients, try to use a tube and let the gas off once or twice. If it keeps coming back, let me do the surgery. And then I'll do a surgery on these calves. And they usually do quite well and close up, and it's not really a big deal.
So I've actually seen these videos or some videos of what she's explaining on Facebook or whatnot. And it literally looks like a balloon is inside the cow. And this dude walked up to it. He just gave it a quick little shank. Oh, God. And if you took like an air compressor and you were releasing all the air inside of it, that's what it sounded like, and it just didn't stop. It was just
and if only
how
you'd been there,
uncomfortable.
because that's
Go ahead.
If only you were there, because that's almost pure methane, so it really stinks.
So don't light a cigarette, you're telling me.
Yeah, it really, really smells. So just like, don't forget that either. And sometimes if you get real lucky, it bubbles and it kind of like sprays out.
That's wildly
Real
inappropriate.
lucky.
Oh, there are people in offices listening to the show today all across Fargo Moorhead who are just going, what is happening?
Bubbles and spray and
Oh, yeah, I can't imagine.
I love it.
Oh, that would be wild.
Oh, man. Can you imagine?
That's wildly inappropriate.
Okay, now that we are all just...
Dean, what are you thinking
Dean
right
can't
The
now?
only thing I could think of is you're stuck in an outhouse and it tips over, and that's what it's like.
One time I had a bad enough calving. I decided to use the dog skunk shampoo because I thought that it would get the dead calf smell off of me.
Oh, no.
I had really, really irritable skin. I still smelled, and I had eczema for a while.
Oh.
So yeah, I definitely would say that is fairly close to some of our days, unfortunately.
Wow.
You just burn those clothes. You don't actually try to keep them at the end of those days, I bet. Yeah, just throw them away.
Oh.
Wow.
My washing machine has fancy stain settings, and it has one for chocolate, but I think they actually mean feces, because I'm assuming that's how I use it.
I was going to say, does it have a cow setting?
Manure.
I assume that's what they really meant by chocolate's just the nicer word.
Right.
Oh my God!
I'd say that's probably true. Oh, okay. We have just like 3 minutes left, Emily, and I did have someone ask, what is crypto in cows? I told Justin this does not mean they have a wallet.
Yeah, Dogecoin.
No, they don't. So
No.
Okay, what are we talking about with crypto in cows?
Moo coin?
So crypto, they mean Cryptosporidium parvum. It is a single-celled organism. So it's not really a bacteria, but it's not a virus. It's kind of like those little single-celled flagellates and stuff that you may have looked at in school. Kind of like Giardia would be another example.
Okay.
Crypto is something that baby calves tend to get. It's usually passed, it seems to be passed a lot in wet conditions. And if they get it, unfortunately, they get really, really, really bad diarrhea.
Oh,
It has a high morbidity and fairly low mortality rate generally. And what that means is it's very, very good at spreading. It can kill a lot of calves, and I've seen it kill a lot of calves for a variety of reasons, but it doesn't always, it's not sudden death. You do have a little bit of time, but it requires a tremendous amount of supportive care to get them through. So you can imagine one guy, he's got this very, very, very easy to spread thing that can spread on your clothes. It can spread very, very easily. It's fecal oral. So, it can spread very, very easily. And now he's got, first you got 3 calves, then you have 6, then pretty soon, I did have one herd where it was a third of the herd that was infected, and they did lose a lot of calves. So it's very tricky. And there's no approved drug in the US for it. There's one in Canada. I'm unclear on how well it works. But I have seen people lose a lot of calves because they just cannot keep up. These calves need constant drenching with electrolytes. When I say supportive care, I mean their immune system has to clear it, but you have to keep them going long enough that they don't die of dehydration or something else before they can clear it. They also tend to get secondary infections because it really bites up their colon. So the other thing about crypto that's crucial to understand is that it's zoonotic, meaning people can get it.
Oh,
People can get it. So it's really, really important in general when you're playing with baby calves particularly, but any animal, right? Like it's really important that we like wash our hands and not put them in our mouths, all of that stuff, right? Don't get poop in your mouth is really important. But it's hard when you're working in an agricultural industrial setting, right? Because, it's a little more complicated when stuff's splashing everywhere. I have had crypto before. And it's a very unpleasant disease for humans as well. I do know people who have been hospitalized for it. And wow. It's not particularly pleasant. And it's really important, especially if you have little kids, immunocompromised people. I believe crypto still kills a fair amount of people with unclean water supplies who are immunocompromised with HIV/AIDS. I could be wrong on that. That's not a fact, but I'm pretty sure. So it's really important that you make sure that we're washing our hands, use good hand hygiene anytime we have scouring calves, because we don't know for sure, right? And it's really important to also be really aware of who is helping. If you have somebody in your family who's undergoing cancer treatment or little kids, people with not great immune systems, it is really important to be conscientious of that.
And Emily, the bird flu has been expanding for, throughout the globe, I guess. And is there any worry that this, of this getting into, the cows, calves, anything like that? Or is that really not
like the cow passing it on to the calf, you mean?
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean, is this going to be a problem down the road here? Are we expecting that or no?
I mean, on an animal to animal level, it has caused some decreased production in some dairy cows in I think about 11 states now. High path avian influenza, H5N1, I believe, has been around for a while, right? And like anything, it's a migratory bird disease. And so any migratory bird disease is going to spread pretty easily. The jump to cows, anytime anything jumps from one species to another, obviously it's concerning. In terms of concerns for animal health, there are some. USDA is addressing them appropriately, in my opinion. So far, we've only seen it in dairy cows. They do have some testing in place and some testing requirements. It hasn't been found with a ton of animals, but it causes decreased milk production, possibly some fertility issues. It's more a concern of also the risk to human health, right? And while we don't know that for certain yet, from what I understand, and again, I don't work for USDA, so I'm not privileged to a lot of the information that they have. But from what I understand, there have been a few people who have had possible transmissions, but it's very, very rare. It did not come through animal products. These are people who were directly involved in the day-to-day lives of these animals and really spending a lot of time with them. I'm not even overtly concerned for my own health. It's really migratory birds. I would be, I'm more worried about that overall. Migratory birds have it. My dogs have pulled a ton of dead geese this year into our yard that they've found that have died of, and that were symptomatic. I mean, it was in our area quite badly. That being said, obviously things like this are always of a concern. Some people who believe strongly against raw milk would argue that this is a good reason for pasteurization. They have not found any, they've been testing milk because they've only found it in dairy cows right now. They have been testing milk. No live virus has been found in any milk samples or anything, and they are constantly monitoring that. But it's a good reason to make sure that you are comfortable with the temperatures you're cooking things to, the sources you're getting things from. All of those things are things to always consider in the face of an outbreak of an animal disease like this.
What about we got like a minute left, but what about when it comes to fatality of bird flu in cattle and procedures if someone's cows do getting bird flu? Is there something special you're supposed to do? Like your bird flocks have got to get euthanized. I'd imagine you're not doing that with cows, but do you have any info on that?
I don't have a lot because our state hasn't been affected yet, and I haven't had any worries about that. We did have some flocks that had to be depopped in our community. What I do understand, I believe they are quarantined and tested. I'm not sure, and I know they cannot ship any animal products. I think those products are going out of the food chain for sure, but I do not know exactly how they're dealing with the animals themselves. Sometimes, depending on the pathogen in general, the policy of USDA, sometimes there have been things that involve depopulation, right? They did that with cows, for example. If you have, when they had FMD in England, for example, they did that with cows, right? It is something that they'll do. But in this case, I don't think that it's nearly reached that point. I have a feeling they're going to do quarantine and test. That's usually the most common way that they handle these things. And we do have a very robust system in place for dealing with foreign animal disease and traceability, actually being able to find animals that come up at slaughter with disease. Like TB traceability in this country is very good in comparison to other countries.
I see. Well, I appreciate you coming on with us. If somebody wants to get in contact with you or the vet clinic, or if they want to, ask some questions, how could they do so?
Sure. So Ashley Veterinary Clinic, we do have a Facebook page, and we're not super active, but we should be. And I keep saying I'm going to make some sort of social media presence. Maybe Bridget will help me with that.
That's right.
We got to get Hulu to pick you up. I'm saying this could be a huge hit.
This is awesome.
Oh gosh.
You just got some cameras from Hulu following you around. You'll be an instant nationwide hit.
Yep.
Oh, I might have to start brushing my hair in the morning.
Well, Dr. Emily Fox from Ashley Vet Clinic, thank you very much for joining us. We got to take a quick moment here. When we come back, I think we have 2 or 3 minutes left of the show, so stay tuned. We'll be right back. Hey, welcome back to Weather and Ag in Focus. Thanks for rejoining us. It is 1:56. Got some rain here in the FM Metro, and we'll be running down that forecast for you. We don't got much time left in the show, only a short little 2-minute update. Dean, you want to take a stab at this one?
Yeah, we'll give it a shot. Rain.
There you go.
Back to
Have
you.
a great day.
Yeah.
That'll wrap it up for the show today.
Yeah, showers continue through the evening hours. We'll pick up anywhere between about a half inch and an inch across most of the area. As we head towards midnight, the rain should start to shut down, upper 40s tonight. And then tomorrow, a mix of sun and clouds. A few scattered showers late in the day with highs in the low 70s. And then a little bit warmer. Quite a bit warmer. Woo! And breezy on Friday. Low 80s on Friday.
Hey.
Could have a line of stronger storms come through Friday night into Saturday morning. We'll be keeping an eye on that. Not saying they're going to be severe, but
We are me.
they could be strong.
We are me.
It's your weekend to work.
It's a Friday, though.
Hey, to
You know I take off early on Friday
Sure do.
when
To-
it's nice out.
Dan, who texted me with a question about a field that they're going to spray a pre-emergent herbicide on up west of Grand Forks. Dan, I know you're listening. Make sure you add non-ionic surfactant to that. I didn't get a chance to answer that question back to you. So, look, we're using this as a platform to inform everybody.
There you go.
All
Indeed.
the things.
Always.
Always.
Always got an opportunity to call into the show, too. 701-293.
Please.
What were the last 4 numbers? I forgot.
9,000.
There we go.
And if he's listening and asking questions, the good news is, 1, we can answer them. And 2, if you have more and we can't, why don't you just email them to us and we'll find the answers for you.
Indeed. Those emails are weather@flagfamily.com as well as ag@flagfamily.com. You can find us on Facebook and YouTube, Weather and Ag in Focus. Watch our Here We Grow series where we grow 20 acres of corn. Last year we did soybeans. You can find out what it takes to do both by following Weather and Ag in Focus. And that'll do it for today. We're back tomorrow from 1 to 2 o'clock in the afternoon, hopefully. What's coming up next is usually the Jay Thomas Show, but he's kind of having a crappy day, so Jay stayed home today. You all know why. You're going to get to hear a debate that came from the other day. I think it was the West Fargo debate. So be looking forward to that. We'll see you tomorrow.